Hello, welcome to our shop. I'm Kurt DeHeer. My son and I, Gary DeHeer, have a business called A Cut Above Bowls, and we've been asked how to put a tenon on a rough out bowl. Since that's our business is rough out bowls, let's get this going. So I just finished the back of this one. We'll set it aside for now. And I've got a nice 4-piece set here. Largest one is around 11 inches in diameter. They've been roughed out green, sealed with Tree Saver, which is a greenwood sealer, and allowed to dry. These are now air dry, and they're ready to go. But they have gone oval. So when I look and I measure across here, I'm 5 inches this way, 5 1/8 that way. It hasn't moved a lot, but it has moved, and that tenon is no longer round, it's oval. So I want to go ahead and true this up around. I'm also going to go into a smaller set of jaws as I finish the bowl. I don't need the big jaws that I used to rough out and to core, because I'm not going to put as much torque and as much tension on here, and I've got a lot less weight. Dry wood holds better, so I'm going to go down in size. This is a 5-inch set of Vicmark jaws. This was roughed out using a 6-inch set of jaws. I've still got my original center mark, and I'm going to put my tailstock into that center mark. And I'm going to look and see how this piece runs. If it runs true, I can see that this is not completely balanced, or at least the grain wasn't balanced. My pith, or the heart center, was over in here, and the bark was here, so this was all taken off of an offset slab. So this is going to, as this dried, it didn't just collapse equal, it leaned to one side. Now, you saw earlier I did have my face mask on with my respirator, but I'll do this without it, just so that you get clearer sound and you don't have the muffled sound of the face mask. I've got switched to my overhead view and my tailstock view. I've got my tool rest set at standard tool rest height. Standard tool rest height is described by taking the tool that you're going to use, placing it level on the rest, and the cutting edge should be at center. I'm going to start with a 1/2-inch flute spindle gouge with a fingernail grind. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my dovetail tenon. If I happen to move this on the chuck, I've just put that up against the chuck jaws and I've got friction holding that on. But if I happen to move, once I've got the tenon on there, I can turn this around, go into the chuck, and use shear scrapes on here. Now, one thing to be mindful of is sometimes this sealer, where it drips a little bit, it'll have a hard edge. And spinning that is very hard, very sharp. It's even sharp when it's not spinning, but be careful of that surface. Double check. I'm always reaching over, double checking that tension on my quill. I'm going to come in and just slice into that end grain, or not end grain, side grain, I'm sorry. Slice into the side grain, and step in. Roll that flute up closed, and scrape that tenon. Now, I know these jaws fully closed are 4 inches. And right there, I've got 2 1/4 from center. Measure all the way across. I'm 4 1/2, 4 3/8. So I'm going to make this just a little smaller. While I'm right here, I'm going to just true up a little bit of that surface right there. Now I'm going to switch over to my bowl gouge. And start to shape my piece. Yeah, I'm not real careful on the cuts, or at least real particular. I'm trying to get up this wall as quick as I can and as fast as I can without moving the piece. You can see by the ridges left behind, I'm not riding a nose bevel, and I've got my handle dropped down a little bit and coming across there, but I'm just looking to get down to the round right now. I've still got a flat surface, or a surface that I haven't cut, maybe is a better way of describing that. I've got this surface here where the sealer's still on, so I need to come back, pick up another cut, and get a little bit deeper in the surface. Check. Look that over. Okay, I've got down to round. Now I've got my hand reaching in, and I'm using my potter's calipers to kind of feel what kind of wood I've got underneath there. And I've still got some good thickness in here that I can go ahead and adjust the shape a little bit if I want. I'm not restricted to just the shape of what this was roughed out at. I can change the shape a bit here. I'm changing my bowl gouge size. I'm going to a 3/8 flute. Bevel riding cut. So bring that up. I'm getting a little bit deeper. And then I'm going to come in and swing that back out to the larger diameter, putting an OG style curve to the piece. As much work as I can get out here, it's a lot easier to, or I want to get as much work done here as I can, because it's a lot easier to do than when I turn it around and I'm in the chuck. But I'm not going to sit here and fuss too much over this, because once I go into the chuck, it may not run dead true. So I've got a good surface off of the tool, and I've got a decent shape, and I've got that, rather than just that hemispherical shape that I started with, I've got a nice OG curve. We'll take and set this one to the side for a few minutes. Bowl number 2. Now this is a smaller piece of wood because it came out of the inside. And I don't need that big 4-inch foot on it. I can hold this in my standard jaws with about a 2-inch tenon. Yeah, because this is kind of a cone shape, I do need to bring this down a little bit here Make sure that you get this plug small enough that it fits inside of your chuck jaws. Now the bowl gouge doesn't quite cut that dovetail the way I like, so back to the spindle gouge. Get that set. I've just started bowl number 2. Didn't put the same shape as I did on bowl number 1. I've got a lot less material that I'll have to remove when I put that in, so I just kind of get that going at this point. Bowl number 3. Repeat the process. I do have chuck jaws that'll go down smaller than the standard jaws. I have a Vicmark VM100 chuck, which the jaws on that close up to 1.25 inches rather than the standard 1 3/4 that most chuck jaws close. So it's a very valuable chuck to me for these smaller pieces. I'll set the tenon on this one for that VM100. So about 1.25 inches. Just slide up the wall a little bit. Not going to go all the way because I don't want to hit my chuck jaws. I'm just trying to true that up a bit. So now I've got 4 pieces here that I've gone and roughed out the backside, trued them up a little bit, and I've got tenons on them. These 3 pieces I can set to the side, and we'll shape this one. Now remember, I did a different shape on these 3 than I did on this one. I can still go back and put the same shape and make a 4-piece nested set, or I can sell this one on as a nice salad bowl and sell this as a 3-piece decorator set. One question we often get asked is, what do I do with that little bowl? Well, it by itself doesn't have a lot of value, but when I put it with these other 2 bowls, I've got a nice decorator set on that. And we want to decorate with odd numbers typically. And so a 3-piece set actually is a better set to try and decorate with than a 4-piece set. But we always try and get that 4th bowl if possible, just for this little 3-piece set. Because if I take the 3 pieces, this now becomes hard to decorate with because it's got the larger bowl, or harder to decorate. Most people don't have the counter space to set out a nice 3-piece set, no matter how pretty the wood is. And then if I looked at it separate, these 2 bowls don't have the value with them. If I was to sell those on as separate bowls, they don't have the value as if I put that 3rd piece in there and then I've got a 3-piece nested set. That nested set raises the value considerably. So one of the comments, like I said, what do I do with this little bowl? I double my money, because I can make a lot more money off that 3-piece set than I can off of this 3-piece set, or this I can make a lot more money off of this 3-piece set and this salad bowl than this 3-piece set. Most people that are coring out don't get this piece, and they lose that, and I think it's a big mistake. But let's go back to shaping this here. Now that we've got a tenon on everything, this piece comes into my chuck jaws. Those jaws are fully closed. I don't want more than 1/8 of an inch gap. That's about as small as I want. And I'm going to come in and true this surface up here. To do that, I'm going to use my 3/8 bowl gouge. Now I've raised my tool rest above center line. I'm about 1/2 inch above the center line. Just remounted this piece of wood, so I need to turn my lathe speed all the way down, and I do have a little bounce out here. It's not 100% true. And I'll bring my speed up. My speed is about 1,500 RPM. If I'm going with a formula of the diameter times the RPM of the lathe, I'm a little above that speed, but I've got a dry piece of wood that's light in weight. It's thin, and I'm held very securely. I'm going to take my bowl gouge. I'm going to draw a red line right down the flute. And I want you to remember, red is dead. If I can see that red line, I've got a problem, because all that cutting edge can be introduced into that wood. So I'm going to turn, for this cut, I'm going to turn that tool all the way upside down. The cutting edges are both wings are facing the wood. And I open it up just slightly, and my thumb anchors the tool down to the tool rest and makes the wood go through the tool. And I'm getting those light, fluffy angel hair shavings off of that tool. Everybody's concerned about what happens if I roll the tool too much. Nothing. And by lifting the tool rest, that allows me to get closer to the work, and I can do this with a smaller cross section of tool than what most people use. For years, I was like everybody else. I used a 1/2 inch flute tool to make this cut, and that was because you were hanging so far over the rest. But I found one day that if I slide the tool rest in or lift the tool rest up, that I can shorten my reach. Now I can't come all the way around with one tool rest setting, so I just move my tool rest to keep that rest or that reach close. As soon as you feel the handle trying to lift to keep in contact with the wood, then you need to lift the rest. Now this is going to leave me with some ridges, and that's fine. I'll take those ridges over torn grain, because I don't know how deep torn grain goes, but I do know how big a ridge is. To get into that corner, I'm going to come in, get on my bevel, Continue the shape into that fillet. Got a couple little grooves right there. Just tickle back and forth. Check that surface out. That should be clean, no torn grain. Like I said, I'll take ridges because those will sand out in seconds. I'll move on. Before I do this top section, I want to come around and true up this rim. Same spin, bowl gouge, flute closed over, hand on the rest, handle on the hip, and I just arc my hip. Flute is open about 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Come get on the bevel. I reached my thumb up there and felt it. Okay, I can feel that little bit of torn grain right there. Nothing serious. That's fine. I've cut clean around the rim, so now I know how tall my bowl can be. Come back around and true up the top of the outside of the bowl. Come back around to the rim. Tool rest back to standard tool rest height. Lock everything in. I'm working over the center post as much as possible to keep vibration down. Cut towards the outside. Watch that edge, it can be very sharp. Doesn't hurt to take a piece of fairly coarse sandpaper and just kiss that edge. I haven't changed the shape, but I've deburred that edge in case I bump into that. Then I don't run the risk of slicing my hand open. Okay, adjust my tool rest one more time. Gonna go back to my 1/2 inch flute. Bevel riding cut. Stop and check. You see me kind of want to, I instinctively want to reach in there and grab that. Don't. But I reached in and then resisted. And that's, I've got a little bit of an edge here that's still rough. Right there, right there. Going to put a couple of marks on that surface that hasn't been cut, just so that I can go back to them and reference them very quickly. Okay, there's my marks. Almost got all of that one. Got all of that one. Now, in order to get the rest of this mark out of there, I'm going to dip that rim in just a little bit quicker, a little sharper, rather than try and take this from the inside out. I'm going to tuck my rest in along this wall here. And I'm going to go to my smaller gouge. I'm going to clean this surface up, but I'm going to slightly undercut it. Smaller gouge typically will cut cleaner than a larger gouge. My left hand is outside of the bowl, putting gentle support. I'm going to stop right there, check this surface. While I'm doing that, I've got my hand running around and feeling to see what that feels like. If it doesn't feel right, it's definitely not right. My tool rest comes back out to standard tool rest position. I'm going to switch to my larger gouge. I'm hearing just a little hum from vibration in the bowl, not in the tool yet. Now, as I come around the corner and into this wood here, I don't need to take very much off of this surface because that is already set up. By the depth has already been set up by the core and the coring tools. And so when I come around, and that's also the hardest wood to cut out, so that is set so that I can take that out. But that's getting to be a long reach for my tool rest. If I tuck my rest in like I had it there, I'm still back here at this same point, and it's awkward. It's not as stable. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit, if you want to call it that, and I'm going to adjust my rest and put it inside of the bowl. Right there. And my contention is, and I believe that's why the tool rest was notched out in the first place, was so that it fits inside of the bowl. I'm just a touch too high. And now I've even gone back to my smaller gouge just to show you that I've got a shorter reach. Only taking about 1/8 of an inch off of the depth. Just clean that up. That'll leave me my overall depth where I want it. Reach in, feel that curve. It's got a little flat to me, so I'm going to come in. One more cut. All right, this piece is ready to sand. I will power sand the outside and the inside, everything I can get right now on this. So power sand inside, outside. I can use something this size. I could use a 3-inch disc, no problem at all. 2-inch if that's all I've got. As I get to this corner here, this detail, I'm going to take and fold my sheets and get them into that surface there. I use the same sheets, the same discs that I power sand everything with to fold and put into the details. I don't switch to a different abrasive because they'll have different sharpnesses. Even a different disc might have a different sharpness than the one that I've used, and that'll cause a sanding discrepancy, and you will be able to see that. Once I've sanded all of this, then I'll finish off the bottom in the normal way, whether a friction chuck, a jam chuck, a vacuum chuck, a set of bowl jaws, whatever you personally got and prefer. If you don't have anything, start with a friction chuck. Just put a piece of scrap wood in your chuck jaws, round it over a little bit, pat it with some paper towel, bring your tailstock up and hold that, come away from there. So I've got plenty of material in this piece to go ahead and finish it. And I'll bring that foot around on there and I'll have a very nice salad bowl. If you guys got any questions, go ahead and contact us at this email address back here, acutaboveBowlco@gmail.com, or find us on Instagram, and we do the messenger on Instagram. So whatever works best for you, go ahead and give us some contact. Give us a question and we'll see if we can help answer that. And of course, for all you bowl cord needs and you want beautiful bowls, this is a pretty plain piece of maple, but we've got some of the highest figured stuff that you'll ever see. And we've been doing this for a lot of years with over 50 years experience between the two of us in trees and wood turning. We do know what we're talking about, and we're glad to help you. Thanks a bunch for watching.